Hello everyone and welcome to Retail Archaeology. Today we'll be taking a look at the old town shops in Flagstaff, Arizona. This is actually a little mini mall that opened up inside an old JCPenney building. Here's a look at a little map on the side of the building, and you can see that it's located right in the middle of Heritage Square in downtown Flagstaff, Arizona. Here's a look at the outside of the building, and it's a very interesting building. There's a little ramp that goes up. You can see there, it kind of looks like a UFO, and that actually goes to some parking that's up on the top floor. When this building opened as a JCPenney in 1962, it was actually customer parking up there, but now this parking area is only for employees, and you can see there's lots of private property and no trespassing signs. Here's a quick little listing or directory of the businesses that are inside this little mall. You can see there's some galleries, lots of places to eat, a basement marketplace, which is pretty interesting, and all kinds of other little interesting boutique-y type shops. Let's go ahead and enter into the mall though, and I love these wood door handles. I think those are probably original back to when this was a JCPenney. And Flagstaff seems to be very patriotic towards the state of Arizona. There's a lot of Arizona state flags and things around. It's kind of interesting. I don't feel like I see this much pro-Arizona stuff in places like Phoenix. I wanted to cover this place because I think it's really interesting, and I think it's a really cool use of an old department store building. As you can see when we walk in, it just kind of looks like a regular mall. This first store we'll look at is Black Hound Galleries, and this place is really interesting. It kind of has an Urban Outfitters / Spencer Gifts kind of feel. I love a lot of the used vintage clothing that they have for sale. Look at that sweater. I wish that came in my size. And here's some kits to make beer bongs, and Flagstaff is a college town, so it's not surprising to find something like this here, but it kind of adds to the Spencer's vibe of this place. And I also found this interesting, the Big Wall of Shame. If we look at these are all kinds of apology letters that people have written to the store for shoplifting and passing bad checks and things like that. I thought this was kind of neat to look at. Cheap plastic shit. Let's take a look in here. Got some slinkies. I like this display, what they used here to kind of make it. Unfortunately, somebody opened up some slime. That's kind of gross. I hate when people leave messes like that in the store. And of course, you've got to have your screaming chickens. They had lots of interesting books and things too, and I love these candles. I wish they had one with like Weird Al on it. I probably would have bought a Weird Al candle. Cabin porn. There's no nudity in there, it's just pictures of cabins. And this was funny to see too, this How to Talk to Your Cat About Gun Safety. I thought that was just a meme. I didn't realize that was an actual book. But as you can see, the store's pretty busy, and that's kind of the theme for this whole mall. As small as it is actually really busy. Lots and lots of meme stickers here as well. This really was a fun store to just kind of browse around. There was lots of great vintage clothing to look at here also. Unfortunately, nothing was really in my size. That is a great wall of flannel though. And here's another boutique that was right across the corridor. Unfortunately, there's no sign on this one, and I can't remember the name of it though. But they sold things like custom-made soaps and things like that. These were actually really neat to look at. My daughter ended up buying one. It was a narwhal soap. And I was actually surprised how decent the prices were in this store. Sometimes these boutique type stores can be a little expensive, but the pricing seemed pretty fair here. It's worth mentioning too that this shop, like everything else in this little mall, is locally owned, which I think is pretty cool. I really like the tin ceiling that they have in this place. And it's interesting to look out these display windows and think that, you know, way back in 1962, this was a JCPenney, and you'd be looking at 1962 Flagstaff out there and all those old cars and things like that. I just think this is a great use of an old historic department store building. And here's another little clothing boutique. There's a lot of clothing stores in here, a lot of vintage clothing and trendy stuff. I really like this display here they made out of this old RC Cola and Orange Crush commercial refrigerator. God, I love RC. But yeah, like I said, it's just really interesting to look out these windows and know that thankfully an old historic building was saved and wasn't just plowed down. And I also thought it was kind of interesting that you could see the bare foundation of the building there. Now this mall does have a basement as well, and there's a really cool mosaic there that you can see at the foot of the stairs, and if you look down the stairs, there is actually a koi pond down there, and it's really quite beautiful. Now unfortunately there's not going to be a fountain cam shot in this video because there were a lot of signs around here about not messing with the fish and not messing with the water in the pond, so I didn't want to get thrown out, and I figured it was worth it just to film the beautiful koi that were in this pond. They really like to seem to come up to people, but I imagine that's just because they're used to humans being the ones that feed them. The basement marketplace seems to carry mostly clothing and apparel. And there's also a barbecue restaurant down here that we'll take a closer look at in a few minutes. Now while I was poking around down here, I noticed this long hallway and there was a sign that said Newberry's entrance at the very end, so I was pretty curious about that. And then I noticed they had a lot of old newspaper articles and stuff framed along the walls down here. And we'll take a closer look at them in a second, but it kind of explains the history of everything that's gone on here. Now I was pretty disappointed to find when I got all the way down here at the end of this hall, it's just a bathroom, so I'm guessing this Newberry's entrance thing must be a joke or something. Let's take a look at some of these framed newspapers though. This one here is from 1988, and it explains the idea of transforming this area and the old JCPenney building into the Old Town shops. Now the newspaper is dated 1988. I'm not actually sure when this place opened as the Old Town shops. It might have been in the late 80s or early 90s. It's kind of hard to track the history down. But speaking of history, here's some even older framed newspapers touting the announcement of the brand new JCPenney that's opening. This actually opened in 1962 as a JCPenney, and that JCPenney resided here up until 1979 when the Flagstaff Mall opened and it moved there. This one's a great one though because you can see what the building looked like when it first opened as a JCPenney, and you can see the parking there on the roof that they were advertising. I love looking at old department store ads and things like this. But you can see the outside of the building back in 1962 looks just like it does today for the most part. It's got the same wood slats, and instead of that JCPenney sign, they've added those murals. I like this one too because it has the JCPenney 60th anniversary logo on it. It's wild to think in 1962 JCPenney stores were already 60 years old. And to me that's what's so sad about JCPenney struggling now like it is. The company's well over 100 years old, and it's very much tied to the fabric of American history. Let's take a closer look at the barbecue joint down here. I love all of the old vending machines they have down here. I love that old Tom snack machine. This Bigfoot barbecue place smelt fantastic too. I wish I hadn't just eaten before I came down here. And I also like how they're using an old 7-Up machine as a merch table. That old machine looks like it's in pretty great shape too. Now here's a weird set of stairs that I found in the corner of the basement, but as you can see they just go up to nothing. Looks like it's blocked off now. So I guess we'll never know where that goes. There was also a pile of glass block back here as well, and I'm wondering if these are original to the old JCPenney department store. I really do think this is a great use of an old department store building. I love that they're supporting local business, and I also love that a historic department store didn't meet the wrecking ball, which seems to be the outcome for a lot of these old buildings. And even though this mall is really little, they do have a chocolate shop in here. No mall would be complete without a chocolate shop. And there was some pretty tasty treats in here. I'll have one of everything, please. Really, it smelled great in here, heavily of chocolate. And I really liked this kind of very old school candy store setup they had with the jars, the different types of licorice and things in it. And this was filmed right before Valentine's Day, so of course they've got the heart-shaped boxes of chocolates out. In the future, we're obviously going to see an increasing number of empty department store buildings, and I don't know if this kind of thing would work everywhere, but it seems to be working really great here. Even though this mall is really little and barely classifies as a mall, I still think it is one, and it seems to be fairly busy and doing well. What do you think of this place though? Do you think this is a good use of an old department store building? Let me know down in the comments below. As always everyone, thanks for watching. Want to see your name here? Head on over to patreon.com/retailarchaeology to find out how you can help support the channel. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out my video on this old 1960s era JCPenney that was converted into a neat little mall. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and also make sure to follow at the social media links there because that's the best way to keep up with what's going on with the channel.